Okay, looks like I'm live. Hello, everybody. My name's Justin, and this is AI for the Masses. Let me clear out what I got here. And let's see. Give me a second. Pardon me. Just trying to get this first stream going for the first time. Okay. Okay. I see what's going on here. So let me get myself organized. All right. So, my name's Justin, and I am a game developer that is utilizing vibe coding 100% for game development. And my current project is a role-playing game that uses procedurally generated everything. And currently I'm working on the town. Give me 1 second here. Oh, there we go. Okay, hey, do I call you AZ? I've never had to really talk back to you in this way. Cool, at least the link is working. I'm just gonna kind of play this by ear for now and just kind of get the training wheels off and see what kind of things I learned from this first run. I guess one question asked, since you're my only audience member right now, is like, how's the sound? Is there like a bunch of background noise? Am I too loud? Am I too soft? I'm looking at the OBS, and it seems to be working in the way that I'm hoping is a good setting. So let me give a small tour of what I've been working on here. So I have the basics of like the of a role-playing game as I'm envisioning. I am attempting to create a like 1990s style RPG that is unique in the sense that it will be kind of a roguelike, but only in the sense that everything will be procedurally generated. So there'll be procedurally generated creatures, dungeons, towns, the overworld, but I also plan on having procedurally generated storyline as well. Okay, slight echo. All right. I wonder how. Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't have. Okay, good. Thank you for that feedback. I think I know what you mean by the slight echo. I don't exactly have the best room set up just yet. There's a lot of flat walls in this room, and I will definitely do something about that since you bring that up. And is that what you mean? Like it just kind of like there's like a reverb. It's not you're not hearing my voice twice, are you? I'm wondering if that's. I want to make sure that I understand. It sounds like a compression mic thing, but I'm not sure. Okay, okay. And I'll get to listen to it a bit when I watch the playback. This is definitely going to be an experiment. Okay, not too bad. That's good to know. Alright, I'll play around with it. I think at least if I was to put some extra padding on the walls directly in front of me and to my side, that would help. They're pretty much bare walls, and I'm not in a very big room, so. So let me give a tour of what I'm working on and where this game has been. So let me get back to my root directory. My code name, I guess, for this game, I don't know if it'll stick or not, is called The Story of Someone. Because every time you play this game, the story should be different. I have tested out the proof of concept of being able to have a completely unique story every time. It's incredibly basic, but it should work. Let me show you the basics of what I have pulled off so far with this game. Now, I do have a bunch of different yeah, thank you, Advast. I do have a bunch of different sandboxes that I've created, and I call them sandboxes. So this is the skeleton of the game as it is. I do have a player. He has a little collision box. And by the way, I'm not using a game engine at all for this. Everything is coded from scratch. So every yellow box is a town. Currently, with my prototype, I procedurally generate 5 towns. The dark green areas are supposed to simulate forests. And then there's like these little rocks that are trying to simulate like a small mountain. And I have 3 what I call points of danger. So there's a gray box here. There's another slightly brown box there. Oops, I accidentally entered. And then I have procedurally generated dungeons. I don't have a very good contrast between the floors and the wall right now, so I don't know how hard it is for you to tell where the maze floor and walls begin and end, but this is a dead end here, and there is another dead end kind of around this corner, if you can see my cursor. And there is an exit to this labyrinth that goes to the next level, and right now we're on level 1, as you can hopefully see in the top left corner. And you can continue to go deep into this dungeon infinitely, and every single level will be a different experience, a different layout. Something broke in one of my recent updates. I can't exit the dungeon, so I do have to start over. And then the other thing I'd like to show is that every one of these yellow boxes, being a town, does produce a proof of concept of NPCs and buildings, all procedurally generated. I can talk to the NPCs. They don't say anything of interest right now, and I can exit and I can go to a different town, and then there will be a different town set up. It's procedurally generated as far as the positioning and the buildings, and each NPC can interact. I think one of these towns, the NPCs might actually say something other than greetings, but I don't remember, and it's always random, so I would have to search around to find them. But that is my skeleton overworld proof of concept so far. Let me show you the sandboxes, and then once I've shown you some of the different sandboxes, then I can show you what I'm currently working on today. So my code base is all in here. So I have a sandbox for creating creatures. I have a sandbox for creating dungeons, which you kind of already saw what that looks like. I haven't actually ran the dungeon sandbox in a while. Let's do that. And then the main point of this live stream is to show my workflow for, thank you, AZ. that you think it's very cool. I, of course, being the person building it, think that I could do so much better, and hopefully I will. But let's see. I haven't run the dungeon generator sandbox in a while. See if I remember how to run it. Okay, yeah. So this is the dungeon, and it is still possible for me to move a character. Now, notice the difference in the scale. So I'm able to see the entire dungeon. I need to turn that off. The entire dungeon, and it produces rooms. I actually would love it if I could remember how I could show you how the dungeon is actually procedurally generated. You can watch the process as it happens. I turned that off because I wanted to just quickly generate dungeons and make sure that it always made a dungeon that was solvable. So it's a little difficult to see behind the text, but the green box is the entrance to the dungeon and the red box is the exit. I don't plan on having the exit always being at the bottom corner, and I also can change the size of my dungeon. So I can make smaller dungeons, really big dungeons. I can change the number of these rooms that get generated, but it creates a maze first without the rooms, and then it places the rooms, and then it does I think we say an A-star search that will then make sure that all the rooms will be connected to a path of the dungeon that will get you to the exit. So there's these multiple layers of generation that result in as far as I can tell, a guaranteed solvable dungeon that can access every single room that is generated. And it's like regenerating these dungeons over and over again seems to be supporting that I have successfully made an algorithm that will create a unique solvable dungeon every single time. Now, the dungeon didn't look like this when we were playing the game. So what happens is the game actually, for every single tile, I make basically a 3x3 tile version of every square in the dungeon. So that way my character can dodge left and right and actually move about within the hallways of the dungeon, and not like this where you can't like actually navigate the hallways. So it's scaled up by 3 times in both directions, in the X and the Y when you play. So that's how I have my dungeons being created, and I have a config file that I can change the settings of the size and the number of rooms and things like that. So if I want to create different moods or different difficulty levels or different like the scale of the experience, I can adjust that as the game produces different dungeons. So I have this one dungeon type. I do plan on making dungeons a little more organic looking, maybe like with caves and that kind of stuff. But right now, working on a minimum viable product, and I'm going to stick with this more geometric design. So that's the dungeon sandbox. And then I have also a creature sandbox. So if we go back and let's see what I call it. Yeah, just creature sandbox. And if I run this sandbox, we can see that behavior was actually kind of interesting. I'm going to let my virus control vet my code. But yeah, there we go. Okay, so I have a bunch of different creatures that I can control. Not that you would control them in the game, they would be autonomous. But I can roll my slime. Everything is physics-based. So these are not pre-animated movements. So I can let my slime come down, and I can roll, I can hop to different levels. I can come over here, and then I can stick myself onto this tile there. I can hop down, I can hop back up, I can come back over. Okay, and so everything is physics and procedurally animated. But I do have a render mode, because this is showing like the behind the curtain. So this now actually allows you to see kind of a more pixel art version with a lower frame rate. So I think I have it set to 8 frames per second. So it's a little bit more, you can see it's a little more choppy, a little bit more retro. I can also change the pixel size. For some reason, my settings for this, the pixels are actually really small. But I have another creature that I call the tentacle. And this is the tentacle. And if I turn off the pixel rendering, I can control this tentacle. And AZ, this is like pretty close to that video that you recommended I watch. I did get inspiration from that. It says, creating a solvable dungeon procedurally is legit. In the future, you could add a loading screen that shows the dungeon generating process. Yeah, I was thinking about actually having like a cinematic intro, since everything in the game is going to be procedurally generated. The overworld, the towns, the players, like all the NPCs, all the creatures. I was thinking about having a cinematic process where it actually shows the town being constructed and shows the world kind of growing. So that way there is something interesting for the player to watch while everything is being processed. And the overworld and the towns would be, you don't want to give away everything. You want there to be some mystery to the world. And I do want the world eventually to be big enough that you probably only see about 5% of it in the very beginning of the game. And I hope that I can create a game that takes at least 10 hours to finish. I want there to be enough time spent with the game and the story to feel like you kind of got to know some characters and got to know your protagonist. So even though every single time you play, it will be like a different experience. I really do feel that a procedurally generated story has never been done in a game. And I've already proven the concept on it. So, because the story will be procedurally generated, that means I really am and have my hands tied on having pre-made assets, pre-made art. So I have to algorithmically create everything. And that's a pretty big hurdle to overcome. So everything is physics-based. And the tentacle naturally just kind of does its little undulations and moves organically, but I can tell it where I want its tentacle. So I'm imagining like maybe an attack, like it'll like dart at the player to attack, or it kind of do like the little snake thing, like I'm gonna come at you, and then do that kind of thing, give you a little bit of a warning, grab something, throw it, and then, if I turn on the render mode, it looks more pixelated. I will add more art. I'll add some shadows and lighting effects, but I wanted to at least prove that I could not only procedurally animate using a physics-based model for the characters or the creatures, but also turn it into some form of a pixel art. So it uses a lower frame rate. It doesn't move as smoothly. But I also feel like it's just good enough that it's not like flickering and jumping around. So I'm going with this so far, and we'll see what happens when I'm able to add a little bit more of an artistic flair. Like I want to put little suction cups on it like it's a tentacle. And maybe even give it a front and a back and things like that. And then I have a third mode that is basically a combination of the two creatures. So let me turn off the rendering. So what I have here is a slime that also has a tentacle. And if you render it, you can see the tentacle. But also, I can add tentacles procedurally. So I can have a slime with 4 tentacles, and it can still roll around. And it can still go onto the wall. So remember, this is a top-down game. So down is not at the bottom of the screen. Down is into the screen. So I'll have to add like a shadow so that way you can kind of see that if the tentacle creature, oh, he's a little bit stuck. Still got some bugs here. There he goes. That if the tentacle creature is sitting on the ground, so you can kind of see how it's flat at the bottom. I want to create a little shadow. And then if it jumps, the shadow and the slime will be separate, giving that illusion that it's sitting on the ground. And I can add, I think, up to 7 tentacles. And 7 is not a hard limit. It's that my tentacles have an angle restriction. So everything is equation based. Everything is procedurally worked on. It's all mathematical. So maybe I haven't really experimented with it too much. If I have a bigger slime, I believe that I should be able to add more tentacles. And I can change the size of the slime. So I can make large slimes that have more mass, that are more squishy, or more stiff, and things like that. I can even show a little bit of that ability in the code here. So if I go to Creature Sandbox, I go to the config file, I can do just the slime, and let me demonstrate that. So right now the slime radius is at 20 pixels. If I let's make the slime more than twice as big. We'll go 50. Now the slime is huge, and I can pixelate it. And there's still some bugs in that the size of the slime and the platforms that it sits on, in order to simulate the idea of it sitting on the ground. Still have some bugs. I'm trying to ignore them for now, and I'll work on those later. Okay, there. Finally got it to sit properly. So, but this slime is different than the tentacle slime. So see how this slime did not end up with a, what is going on? Where's my platform? Okay, it's way up there. Let me get him on the platform there. All right. So this slime didn't change size. So even though I'm using the code from the slime and I'm using the code from the tentacle, I still have separate settings for this version of the creature, as if he is a different species than the slime and the tentacle exclusively. And I plan in the game to have just regular slimes roaming around, mini boss slimes, huge slimes that if you hit them, they'll separate into 2 smaller ones. I plan on having tentacles coming out of grates and walls and holes in the ground. And having like a lore that is behind why this creature is under the ground doing what it does. Alright, then the other thing is, what other sandbox did I make? It's the buildings. So you saw in the town I just had just standard rectangles as running as the buildings. So today's project is to work on my building generator sandbox that I started. And then I'll show you some of my workflow for that. So let's go to that directory, and let's go ahead and run the building generator sandbox. So all it does is literally just makes a building, and just as you saw in the main game, that it's very, very simple, like art, like not even art, it's just colored tiles represent different features or different items and objects. So the way this is working, and if you can read the terminal, I know it might be kind of small for you guys, I have 4 different building types. So if I press 1 on my keyboard, I make a small residence. If I press 2, I make an inn. If I press 3, I make a shop, and if I press 4, I make a tavern. Now, you didn't see anything of interest happen on the screen because I've only worked on my residence code so far. So I have also 3 sizes for every category of building. So small, medium, and large. And right now, my residence code it makes a building of a certain dimension, with the small, medium, and large, and also that the blue tiles, like kind of light blue tile, that's representing a bed. The brown tile on the southern wall is a door, and the red tile is representing a fireplace. Thought I would at least start with those things, and I have rules for how these things are placed. So for the small residence, I kind of think of it like a studio apartment, or like a small cabin. This will be a fantasy based game. And so the NPC will come in, there'll be a bed, there'll be a fireplace, maybe I'll have like a little cupboard or a table for them to sit at and eat. Very, very basic home. And then when we get to the medium size, there's actually a bedroom that has its own place for the beds. And I'll add art, like maybe little end tables and things next to the beds or between the beds. But as you see, like I can press the button over and over again. The doors and the beds and the bedroom positions, they will rotate. They will move to different places. Fireplaces are always opposite of the bedrooms, on the opposite wall, and the door to the house is always on the southern wall. And the bedrooms are always either northeast or northwest corner. But it's always random and different. So now if I go up in size, I decided to have like a full-size bed. So you can see that the blue squares are now a 2x3. There is one bedroom, the fireplace. Those rules still apply, but I can procedurally generate a bedroom with a full-size bed in a larger residence every single time. So as I get further along and I am able to be more creative, I can start making things like rugs and cabinets and wood stoves and books and tables and chairs and all that kind of stuff that can be placed based on a set of rules. I know that I want to have layers, so the floors and the walls will be basically one layer, and then furniture would be like layer number 2, and then items would be layer number 3. And items can sit on layer 1 or 2, so they can be on the items can be on the floor or be on the furniture, and then but furniture can never be on top of items. And I think that makes sense. So as I make these different assets, I'll put them in these categories, and then I'll give them rules about where they can be placed and what orientations they can be in, and can they not be next to something like the wall that makes the bedroom. So this wall here can't be completely adjacent to the bed. There always has to be, like, I call it like an exclusion zone, where there's floor tiles around the bed before the wall is created. Eventually, I think I will make it where the bedrooms can be bigger and more spacious, but I'm just trying to ignore those kinds of details and not become like a victim of my own scope creep and being too focused on those little tiny things. So today, I think I'm even going to stop adding things to the residence. I've got a bedroom in the main living space. I think that's good enough. The NPC, as I work on making the game and testing out the story and other gameplay mechanics, the NPC can come in, they can go into the bed, they can come out, they can leave the house. That's really what I care about, because I do want there to be a day-night cycle to my game. I want the NPCs to go to bed and go to sleep. I want them to lock their door. I want... if anybody is a fan of like the Elder Scrolls series, I do plan on having some sort of like stealth thievery kind of concept where you can break into homes if you want to. But I want because my game is going to be roughly a 10-hour experience, then I want there to be heavy consequences to breaking the law. So let's say you do break into someone's home and they catch you, then you would be fined, and maybe you would be prevented from using the inn anymore, or no one would talk to you, and then you wouldn't get any more information about the story. I'm debating whether or not I would allow you to kill an NPC, because you could in like the Elder Scrolls series and other types of RPGs. And if you were to do that, then I think I would banish you from that town. So then you couldn't shop from that town anymore, and things like that. And then there'd be nothing you could do about it. You would be forever banished for the rest of the game. It could be a game-ending decision. But because you can make a whole new world, I kind of feel like that level of consequence is acceptable and adds a layer of stress that I hope players would find to be kind of fun. Another thing is, what I want to work on, let me actually do a little bit of coding today. let's get to that. And the next thing I want to code is the in. So if I press number 2, this is my in, but there's nothing happening. There's a small in, which I plan on having as just being a bed and breakfast. Which, why don't we just start with that? I just want there to be a bunch of beds, like basically on the back wall. And so kind of dorm style. Perhaps I'll put a counter. Yes, I think I will. I'm going to put a counter. Maybe it'll be 3 squares wide, so an NPC who runs the inn can stand behind the counter. And then there'll be just enough space on the floor tiles that I can have just a bunch of twin beds next to each other. So let's do that. I'm going to focus on just the small inn. So here's how I do this. This chat has already been being used for what I've done with the residents. Well, it built the sandbox. So it is the creator of this building generator sandbox. And it also has made the residents. So it made the fireplace and the doors and the bedroom. So now I'm going to ask it to, let's continue where we've been working on, and let's make this dorm style inn. So I have to give it a lot of context here. So let's work on the inn now. What you got here? High-risk events like robbing the houses are good for procedural games because it encourages restarting with a new seed. Yeah. Okay. The thing is, though, then if you get to basically a game-breaking scenario where maybe you can't get the items that you need to succeed, I don't think I want to make like story-based items inaccessible by being banished from a town, but I might. But if you get to the point where it's like, I can't, this town is so isolated, I can't get to another town to get the supplies I need, and therefore I'm just kind of screwed. You won't experience the rest of your unique story that was created for you. So, and okay, that's fine. Like, I've got another one waiting for you on the next random seed, but that's kind of a stressor, I think. I'm hoping that I can make the stories unique enough and have enough mystery for you to discover that you won't want to do something that would risk seeing where this one is going. I hope I can create that level of intrigue and commitment to the actual story itself, even though it's procedurally generated. I think I can do it. So let's go with let's work on the end now. I want twin beds to be like a dormitory style. I think I'm going to keep them always being vertical. So let's have all beds oriented. Oriented vertically. Oops. And with one tile of floor between them. Start by placing the beds on the west or east wall, but always place them against the north wall. What else? I mean, I think that about covers it. I like to do one concept at a time. I'm not going to do the countertop yet. I want to just see... Oh, wait, hold on. But that's not all ends. That's just for the small building. So this is just for the small version building of the inn. So one thing you'll see that is a habit for me that I feel is good practice is really minimize, if not completely, sorry, I may have to say the sentence again. I was like, how do I express this? Completely eliminate pronouns. Don't say it. Don't say this and there. Always say the name of the thing you're talking about. Always be very clear about where something is going to be put relative to something else, and be consistent with your terminology. So I called from the very beginning, I said, I'm going to make a residence, an inn, a shop, and a tavern. I better not change it to hotel. I said inn, always call it an inn. Okay? I said small, medium, large. Don't change it to big. Just use the word large every single time. Yeah, 100%, right? You got AZ agrees with me. So let me reread this, make sure I didn't miss any information. So let's work on the end now. I want twin beds to be like a dormitory style. Let's have all beds oriented vertically with one tile of floor between them. See, I'm already breaking my rule. So let's go between the beds. Start by placing the beds on the east or the west or east wall, but always place them against the north wall. This is just for the small version of the inn. I got distracted here. So I place the east or west wall, always place against the north wall. When you start placing the beds like coming from the east or west direction, continue to place beds until you reach the opposite wall. I just want to make sure that the AI is clear that I just want a continuous placement of beds from wall to wall, and I'm not really putting much variability in the size or the dimensions of a small building, so this isn't really that big of a deal to put in this level of detail. Like, it's not really necessary, but I already know in my head that I might create a range for the size of a small building and not always have it be exactly these dimensions every single time. So if I'm going to make a bit of a range, that means sometimes the bed, it might be able to fit 5 beds, sometimes it might be able to fit 6. So I want the code to already be set up. I'm going to press enter while I'm talking about this. I want the code to already be set up to have some variability, to have that idea already built into the algorithm. Okay, so this will probably take a minute for it to crunch. And it is going to give me like full edits to entire files. And it is pretty reliable. Okay, it didn't take very long. Of course, let's add the dormitory style layout for the small inn. This is a great way to give each building type a distinct feel right from the start. The logic will be contained entirely in the buildinggenerator.cs file. I will add a new path for building type.n and implement the specific placement rules you've described. Here's the updated file. So it is giving me the whole file for buildinggenerator.cs. So let me go there. I'm going to go ahead and close this. All right, here's buildinggenerator.cs, and it's about 284 lines, so it gives me a little bit of an idea how far to scroll, and this actually might be the only file that got changed. Okay. Now, I'm already noticing with this code that this has all the functions that have the rules for placing various objects, and I plan on having at least 4 different buildings. I'm already 284 lines in, and it's just going to keep getting bigger. I will probably ask the AI to refactor this code into the different building types, so that way the code doesn't get too overwhelming. So I'm just going to paste in. So yeah, now we're at 331. I find that once I get to like the 300 to 400 range, it gets a little cumbersome and it becomes a lot for the AI to produce. And I just feel kind of guilty having Gemini like make entire 4, 5, 600 line codes just to make one little edit. At certain points when I know it's gonna be only affecting 1 or 2 functions, I'm gonna ask it to just give me the functions that are being changed. Don't generate the entire file. But at this scale, I just go ahead and let it give me the entire file. Okay, let's run it. Let's see what it looks like. Alright, so this is the residence. Now I'm going to press the button for the inn. And there we go. I'm going to keep pressing it and see if, yep. And so since I don't have any variability in my dimensions, there's really only 2 solutions for placing the beds. Either starting on the west wall or starting on the east wall. So there you are. Alright, now if I go up in size, it did not touch medium or large. So now I'm going to add a... I'm going to continue with the beds in the bedrooms. So if we go to the medium, I want to have actual bedrooms for twin size beds. So I'm going to have 1 twin size bed and then walls with a door. And then I'm immediately going to put another twin size bed and walls and a door. So, and I'm just going to keep putting rooms. So now the medium size inn will have individual rooms, just to kind of increase the class, I guess, of these buildings. And I do intend on the different sizes of the buildings to be functional to the game. Bed and breakfast, dormitory styles, they'll be cheap. If you happen to go to a town that has medium-sized inns, well, you have more amenities. They will be more pricey. And sorry, that's what they have available. And if you go too large, then you're going to have to pay a premium. So you're going to have to plan ahead in the game based on the town that has been served to you. Okay, so maybe it's 5 gold for the small place, but it's 50 gold for the big one. Well, if you're kind of at the beginning of the game, you're going to have to plan ahead. You may have to not stay at inns. You may have to camp outside. I do plan on having alternatives. But then why would you want to spend a whole lot of money at a big inn? Well, maybe you get bonus stats for the next day, or extra healing, or something like that. So I do want to create these incentives and rewards for taking the time to save the money and spend as needed based on the situation that's presented to you. Alright, so let's do the bedroom for the medium inn. Alright, let's work on the bedrooms for the medium size inn. I want to have twin beds. Should I have single twin beds only? Yeah, I want to prevent myself from overthinking here. Let's just make. I want to have. Let's be non-plural here. I want to have a twin bed in each bedroom. Here. Here are the rules for the bedrooms. Let's see. So I'm kind of like imagining in my head here. So I got a bed. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's a 3 by 4. Okay. Each bedroom will have a 3 tile wide and 4 tile high wall dimensions. I hope this isn't too confusing. Okay, there will be a bed always on the north wall. I'm going to be a little redundant. It's already seen how to make bedrooms for the residents. It's going to be similar, but I almost kind of want to say let me review this. I'm going to go back to the residents. But I did twin beds in the residence. It's 2 twin beds. So that's why I'm kind of hesitant to say anything that refers to it being similar to how the residence is set up, because let's think. I could have rooms that have 2 twin beds and some rooms that have 1 single bed. I do like to play around with some form of variability with every feature that I add, just so that way I can test behavior. Okay, so we're going to back up. I'm going to start by placing the beds first. Okay, start by placing either a twin bed or a 2 twin bed placement. I know that feels a little weird, but AIs don't care if your wording is awkward. Okay, got some misspellings here. Clean those up. Okay. Now, it already has a category for 2 twin bed. That's why I'm able to confidently say this. If you place a 2 twin bed, use the rules for bedroom creation like the medium residence. Because that's what I have on the screen over there. That's what I want to make. But always place the door on the south wall that has been created. Okay, so sometimes, I could probably replicate it right now. Yeah, the door ends up on the side. So in that case, it ended up on the left. I plan on having another bedroom over here. So this is going to be a shared wall. There would be no way to get to that door. So I need the door to always be on the south wall for the inn. Now I need to give the context that is going to make... I need to present this new idea that is going to create a new bedroom. Okay. After that bedroom has been created, we will place another bed, either a twin or a 2 twin. Place walls around the next bed, following the exclusion rules for the floor tiles around the bed or beds. I've talked about this before. The AI should know what I'm talking about. For the second bedroom, place a door on the southern wall. That is created. So I don't want it to put a door on the southern wall of the whole building. I want it to be the southern wall that just got made. Continue this process until no more bedrooms can fit. Now, I've already reviewed the code for the bedrooms made for the residents. It does a check. It does a dimensions check before it places a bed to make sure that the bed and the bedrooms will fit within the space that is allotted. So it should be able to take that code and do that same concept. So I'm pretty confident about this one. I don't think I missed anything. I'm placing beds, I'm placing doors, I'm placing walls. Let's go ahead and do this. See what happens. I can always make corrections later. And I'm pretty confident it's going to be buildinggenerator.cs. And this code's just going to keep getting longer and longer. I think once I finish the large N rules, I'm going to refactor this code. So that way I have generation code for just the residence, and then just the N, and then the tavern, and so on. Okay, excellent. This is a great procedural challenge that will make the medium-sized inns much more dynamic and unique. The core of this task is to iteratively find empty space and stamp a new randomly configured bedroom into it until the building is full. I will implement this logic by creating the new place medium features method. This method will use a 2D Boolean array to keep track of occupied space, ensuring that new bedrooms don't overlap. Ooh, thank you. Okay. Alright, so pretty confident this is the only file. Yep. Oh, still generating. Wasn't watching close enough. Okay, done. It's still printing, but it was done thinking, so it's just spitting out the rest of the tokens. Yeah, see, I don't like how long this is getting. It's unnecessarily long. And now we're at 438. Like, man, this file is growing fast. Yeah, I may even refactor now. All right. Let's see what we got. Okay, going over to the N. Okay, small is still working, and now let's see what medium looks like. Oh, whoa. All right. Okay, so how am I going to deal with this? Well, first, I'm going to keep regenerating and see if I can find some sort of a logic to how it decided to do this. First of all, I can tell it didn't create the floors around the bed. And it's making extra wall. It's making an entire bedroom instead of using the existing wall. So I'm going to do one thing at a time. It's also making bedrooms below other bedrooms. So first, let me get rid of the bedrooms that are below other bedrooms. I'm going to fix this first, and then I'm going to refactor. Okay, close. There are bedrooms being generated away from the north wall of the building. I want all bedrooms to only be adjacent. That's a word that I find to be very powerful with this particular task that I haven't been using. To the north wall of the building boundary. See, I'm trying to be very specific. Okay, so I'm just going to fix that one thing. I'm going to tell it, you can just give me the methods that I need to update. Do not print the entire file for editing. Okay, let's see if that'll be good enough. So one thing at a time. I can see right now 3 problems. Full bedrooms are being made with walls, no floor tiles around the bed, and rooms are being made south of other rooms. 3 different things. I'm going to tackle each one at a time. I mean, even if you're coding for manually the traditional way, you would just tackle one thing at a time. You should still do that even when you're working with the AI. It is very smart, but you will have these moments where it can get overwhelmed or confused if you try to get it to do 2 or 3 things simultaneously. Okay, so it says, you're correct. The previous logic allowed bedrooms to be placed anywhere, not just against the north wall. My apologies for that error. It's usually very apologetic. Oh, what you got here? Yeah, one step at a time. Yep. With AI, the steps are big. They're quick, but you still need to do them one at a time. So the fix is to change the main loop and place medium in bedrooms to only iterate horizontally along the top of the building's interior, ensuring every potential room starts against the north wall. I like to read these. You feel sometimes you feel like just you can just copy and paste the code and just try it out. But I like to see how the AI is thinking to make sure that we are on the same page. And I like to kind of keep a little bit of a finger on the pulse of what the code is doing, because if you notice, I'm not reading this code. There are times where I go and I do study the code a bit, and sometimes I'll even take some functions and copy and paste them. Yeah, I always find myself attempting multiple steps at once. Yeah, be careful. I mean, it doesn't. You don't get burned every single time, but it can be risky. When I created the sandbox. I didn't stream that part. When I created the sandbox, I did give it a lot of context, but I was creating a whole new concept. So I was very, very descriptive. I told it I wanted 4 different building types, and I wanted to be able to change the size. I gave it I could even go back to the top. I might do that and show you what my initial prompt was. Technically, that was a lot of ideas all at once. But when you're creating a whole new idea from scratch that is technically like compartmentalized from the rest of your code, it's a little safer to give it like 5-10 ideas simultaneously, as long as you're very, very clear. Let's see. So place medium in bedrooms. I know I could do a Control F, but I'm just gonna search manually and read the different method titles. Sometimes it's kind of nice to see what these different functions are called anyway. Place fireplace, big version of features. Okay, place small in dormitory. Carve bedroom and inn. Interesting. I don't know if I like the name of that. That's kind of a telling name. Carve bedroom and inn. Yeah, I don't feel like that was in resonating with what my original idea was. Okay, place medium in bedrooms. All right, there it is. And look, that's all I had to do. So I didn't have to wait for it to print out an entire file, like 40 lines. Easy. I hate it when this happens. It's all right. Okay, let's save it. Let's run it. All right, so all we're trying to do is just not have bedrooms get built below bedrooms. So go to the end. Okay, good. One step in the right direction. Now, I want to get rid of the extra walls. So it did not produce extra north walls, but it's still producing walls between the double walls between the buildings. So let's see how I can express this. I always try to tell that I like what it did. Okay, good. Now, I see that there are double walls between bedrooms. When a bedroom is created, treat the wall of the created bedroom as a wall that... How could I express this? I can see here that because this bed got oriented a different way, which I'm going to let that go for now. I want to see how that feels to have rooms of different like orientations like that. The bed's oriented differently. So this room is longer than that room. So if I made this bedroom first, then I want this wall to overlap, which is fine. But then if this bedroom is made, I don't want to not make the wall that would be lower than the short bedroom. So how do I get the code to create the walls but not make double walls? I think the best way to do this is for it to create the entire bedroom, but to place the bedroom. This is where I should go read the code and see how it is approaching this. So it puts some good documentation here. Let's see, because if it's making the entire bedroom and then just placing it, then I can tell it to just place it to the right one tile. So this grid tracks the entire interior space of the inn. Okay, iterate horizontally along the interior of the northern wall. Okay, so, but what's it doing? If this starting tile is already part of a room, skip it. Interesting. Okay, so is occupied, new boolean, grid width and height. Okay, so it's creating, leave a 2D array that is only booleans. Okay, 2-bedroom room is horizontal. Ah, interesting. Okay, so we're making a true or false here and picking either a random true or false. And room, footprint width, footprint height. Okay, define the total footprint of the room. Oh, okay, so it's just analyzing size of the room. See, I like it. Even though it technically knows the size of the room, I like it that it's still analyzing. Oh, and this is probably running every single time. So once I do one bedroom, then it's analyzing what's left, what space is left every time. Okay, so room footprint width is horizontal. Yes. Room footprint height. You know, I feel like this might be where it's creating the dimensions of the room. So is 2-bedroom, else is single. Yeah. Oh yeah, okay, I got unlucky. I never got a 2-bedroom room in this one. Wait, hold on. Let's see if I can. Ah, oh, hey. Okay, that's neat. All right. The room's top left corner will be X0 to align with the building's north wall. Okay, good. But I also want you to overlap or align with the wall of the previously made room. So I think, based on what I'm reading, I'm guessing a tiny bit here. I don't fully claim to know exactly how this is being generated. I think I can just tell it, place the room one tile to the right. Yeah. Like right here. I bet you I could just put well, I want to say a +1, but I said you could start from one direction or the other. I don't see where it is deciding to go from the west or the east side. Alright, I'm going to experiment. I'm going to try and do this manually. Look at me. I'm actually writing a line of code. What? That's not vibe coding. Altering one line. I don't think that counts. Alright. Oh, no. But it didn't break anything. But no, that didn't. Okay. Oh, that's fun. Okay, so it started from the left. Do I ever start from the right? Doesn't look like it. Yeah, it's really just the overlapping walls that are the problem. Oh, that's, yes. Okay, alright, I'm going to do this with the AI. Okay, so, okay, good. Now I see that there are double walls between bedrooms. Oh, and let me give it a snapshot. Let me give it a snippet. Actually show it what it looks like. What I'm talking about. Okay. So, let's say, when a bedroom is created... don't know what word I was trying to put here. What was I trying to say? When a bedroom is created. Oh, treat the wall of the created bedroom as a, no. When a bedroom is created, I'm gonna change how I'm approaching this. The next bedroom. How do I say? If it's always starting from the left, I can be more specific. The next bedroom's west wall needs to overlap the previous bedroom's east wall. I think I'm getting my directions correct on that. And then I like to give a little context. This will give the maximum amount of space to create more bedrooms. Sometimes it needs that little extra nugget of context, like the purpose. Why do I want it to be this way? The AI is that intelligent, that giving a reason for why you want the code to do something a certain way helps it understand what it is that you're trying to get it to do. I really feel confident that that actually is a real thing. All right, I'm gonna go with that. Let's see what happens. Hopefully it'll just give me the function again. All right, if it does, this shouldn't take too long. Okay, so it sees my image. Probably should have referred to the image a little bit more, but I think it's gonna get the point. Okay, you spotted the key issue. Thank you. It always says that I'm so insightful. The previous logic didn't account for sharing walls, leading to wasted space and incorrect layouts. Okay, see that's a good sign. The goal is to place rooms sequentially, with each new room's west wall overlapping the previous room's east wall. I will rewrite the logic for placing bedrooms in the medium end to follow this sequential wall sharing model. This will also allow me to remove the now obsolete can place room helper method, resulting in cleaner code. You only need to update the... Yeah, okay, so... Here we go. Place medium in bedrooms, and... Placed... Okay. Why? Why do you... Tab... Oh, well, that's because of that too. Oh, wait. Okay, I'm not too concerned. I mean, this isn't Python, so the indenting isn't that big of a deal, but why did it put me down here? All right, I got a little lost. Oh, it says can place room method. Okay, so let's find that. Here we go. I can get rid of this. It looks like carved bedroom in N is also obsolete. There's no references to it, but I'm not going to touch it. I might have missed the message that that was a function I didn't need anymore. But let's test the behavior first. I can get rid of unnecessary code later. Okay, and yes. Okay. Rooms are overlapping. There's just nowhere to walk. So, I mean, for these two bedrooms, that's technically okay, but I want to have a little bit of floor space, especially for just like art too. All right, that is better. Now we need to have floor tiles around the beds after they are placed. Please allow floor tiles around the beds to the south and to the east of the placed beds, and create the wall around that exclusion zone of floor tiles. I've used this terminology before, and it worked. I mean, you can see it in the residence. Like, see how there's floor tile around the bottom of the bed. So I could reference that code, but I'm a little scared to refer to the code from the previous residence because there's a difference in the door logic, and we're not adding new bedrooms in that one. So we are dealing with a higher level of complexity here, and I don't want to refer to a simpler version of complexity. Let's just try and get it to do the thing I'm looking for. Okay, so that's better now. Now we need to have floor tiles around the beds after they are placed. Please allow floor tile. Let's see. Please allow one layer, I guess, layer of floor tile around the beds to the south and east. Place the beds. Yeah. Okay. I think that'll get it. Let's see what happens. Now, just to review the power of vibe coding, this one file right here is over 400 lines, 460 lines. I generated that code 2 hours ago. On top of this file and this file, 47 lines, 60 lines, 60, 13, 105. Okay, like this is powerful stuff. So I do have to think about the problems and break the problems down, but I'm able to do it at a higher level of problem solving. Now, does this replace the need for a knowledge of coding? I am not convinced that you don't still have to know the basics of coding in order to do this complexity of vibe coding. The big reason is because you kind of have to know how the AI is going to approach these complex ideas, so that way you can guide it in a way that will make sense to the AI. I mean, the AI is really smart, and it's just going to keep getting smarter. So it might start becoming more possible for it to do much bigger ideas and handle a lot of the grunt work and some of the thinking for you. But I have played around, tried to push the boundaries of how vague can I be, or how much of a large idea can I describe in one prompt and actually get what I want. And it's still kind of like I tried to ask it to just make procedurally generated buildings. Actually, that's what I did with the overworld map. I said, I just want procedurally generated island with forests and mountain, small mountain, and then 5 towns, and the buildings have different sizes and stuff like that. And it generated just those boxy things. Like, it didn't generate a bunch of houses with graphics and art and even procedurally generated art. So I've played around, or even the dungeon. I had to do the dungeon kind of in a step by step. So, so getting back to kind of my main point, I because I know how to code, I'm definitely far from like an expert coder, far from it. But I do know enough that I have written my own software for things many times that I know how code is structured, and that informs how I ask the AI to make stuff. Okay, I'll rewrite the logic to correctly calculate the room's dimensions based on the bed asset plus the required floor padding. Okay, I remember that for the residence, it was doing something like that. Like that is the description I would give the way it was approaching. So I don't know why I didn't do that this time. So ensure the beds are always placed correctly within their rooms, and the rooms themselves are sized appropriately. So I'm pretty confident that if I just copy, oh, whoa, it's a lot smaller. Why is it a lot smaller? Wait, is this the same function? Oh, let me unhighlight so I can read better. Place medium in bedrooms. Okay, first replace the existing place medium bedroom method with this new version. It correctly calculates the required footprint. I feel like it's so much smaller. Let's look here. Okay, so yeah, place medium in bedroom. I mean, isn't that longer? Maybe it's about the same. Maybe it just did a replacement. Oh, look at that. Yeah, this stuff is different here. Alright, well, let's see what happens. Sometimes simpler code is the code you're looking for. Alright. Oh, wait, there's more than one thing. What was this? Finally, update the carved bedroom in the end method. Remove the obsolete is okay. So this is being referenced, supposedly, and it wants me to update this. This was also a function that I was saying looked like it was. Yeah, now it's referencing the carved bedroom. All right, so let's do that. Okay. Let's see what we get. Yes. Yes. Oh, look at that. To me, that looks like a very basic hotel. Look at those. A little bit of variety, get some choices. Single bed, 2 twin beds. I like this. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, this is... Now, I should be able to change the size of this. So if I decide that a medium-sized inn needs to be bigger, and a large would probably be even bigger, I should be able to, because I did everything relative to the boundaries of the outer wall of the building. And I always make sure to do that. I feel like I should always choose which assets are going to be placed in a certain order, and then I think of a relative position to something in the building that I know will already be there. So let's say I want to have, I don't know, like a rug in the lobby of the inn, but I don't ever want it to be like right in front of the door of one of the bedrooms, or right up against the wall of one of the bedrooms. Then that means place the bedrooms first, and then have the rules for the rug, and make sure the rug fits those rules. So doing things in a certain order, always referring to something else, I think is key to this procedural generation. Okay, the other thing that I want to put as a minimum viable product for the ends is like a lobby counter. It'll be probably, I'll just leave it horizontal all the time, and on one side or the other of the door against one wall. And so you come in, and then you have to come over here and stand in front of the counter and like ask to, or like request to buy a room, and then like the dialogue will come up and you can make choices. But I want to stick to my promise. I'm going to refactor this code. Even though doing the individual methods works pretty good. Actually, before I do that, I like what's going on here. Before I refactor, I'm gonna commit. So, oops. Okay, so added beds and bedrooms to the small and medium ends. Okay. Why? Oh, it's only in that directory. Ah, interesting. Okay. Okay, looking good. Now let's refactor. When I'm refactoring, sometimes I like to give the AI, because I don't think any little changes I made. I don't think I made any little changes, but just in case, I like to give it my full context of my code. Now, I'm already about 200,000 tokens in on this conversation, and I've been doing quite a lot of back and forths. I feel like once I start getting to about the 300,000 range, the AI starts to get a little forgetful and starts getting easily confused. So we're not quite there yet. I don't like to open up too many chat, like open fresh chats. Plus I have to like prep them. But I have this little Python script here, and this Python script will be able to read all my files in my current directory and make it into one file. I'll show you what it looks like. Let me create it first. So all I have to do is just run it. And then if we look in the terminal, it processed all of my CS files that are just for the building generator sandbox. So what does that file look like? It looks like this right here. So it's got, this file contains the consolidated content of selected files from the project. It's intended to provide context to a large language model, and then it talks about like the directory, and it gives a file tree. So it shows all my directories and subdirectories in this particular section of code, and then it tells you here's the start of one of the files, and then here's the code, and then here's the end of that file, and then here's the start of the next file, and here's the code. So it's a way for me to give the AI all of my files and keep it up to date with what we've been working on and the status of my files without me having to drag and drop every individual file myself. I feel like this is an incredibly important step of my workflow. So checking the timestamp on my file, yep, that is the new consolidated files. Okay, so now it's going to see a fresh update. I'm basically refreshing its memory. It hasn't seen some of the code that it gave me way back in the beginning of the chat, and sometimes old stuff gets lost in your context window. So I give it a nice refresher, and I'm going to ask it to refactor my, let's see, which file was it? It's the building generator.cs file. It's getting kind of long. All right. The building generator.cs file is getting a bit long and difficult to update. Since we are working on 4 different building types, and it seems that the rules for placing assets in the building types are in this file, can we refactor the code to multiple files that are exclusive to each building type? Okay, I think that'll get the job done, and I committed, so if this doesn't work out quite right, it's fine. So I'm not changing anything. I'm just refactoring. It will explain to me how it has interpreted this command, this prompt, and what its plan will be. It'll give me the new file names and the code for each of these files, and it should plan ahead as well for the shop and the tavern and give me files that are basically placeholders for when we get to those stages of the game development, since it already knows the shop and the tavern are a part of this. So let's see. This is an excellent idea. As the logic for each building type grows more complex, refactoring is the best way to keep the code clean, maintainable, and easy to extend. I will refactor the building generator by creating a new interface, building type generator, and then implementing a specific generator class for each building type. The main building generator will become a dispatcher that delegates the work to the appropriate specialized class. This change will involve creating several new files within a new subdirectory and heavily modifying the existing buildinggenerator.cs. No other files in the project need to be changed. First, I'll create a new directory. There we go. So I gotta create this directory. So generators, building types. So I'm off screen adding this building types subdirectory. But you'll see it in my VS Code here. So there we go, building types subdirectory. And now we're gonna do, in generators, we're gonna make a new file that is building type generator.cs. Okay. And then I'm just gonna copy and paste this. You can take a peek at it for a second. Okay, yeah. Cool. Alright. And then, so in building types now, first file is residence generator. Residence generator. Okay, misspelled. Alright. Alright, copy and paste that. And then in generator. Okay. This one will probably be pretty long. And then look at those. I got shop generator, really short. Because we haven't worked on that yet, but it's ready. And then tavern generator. Okay, and then so we're still keeping building generator. This class is now much simpler. It sets up the building shell and then delegates the interior design to the appropriate specialized generator. Cool. So I still have a building generator. It's just a lot smaller. It's only 70 lines. Okay, and that's it. Now let's just make sure it still works. Okay, it's like the house is still working. Yep. Medium house is still working. Large house is still working. Yeah, thank you. Okay, let's check out the N. Small N, still working. Medium N still seems to make sense. And then the large inn still works. Haven't added any features yet. The shop still generates, and the tavern still generates with its skeleton. Cool. Refactored. Easy. Boy, that would have taken like an entire day, entire workday to do that refactoring, in my opinion. I mean, maybe I would know my code well enough if I had typed it manually to do that, but I still think it would have taken multiple hours. Okay, so I mean, even if you're writing your own code, just something like something tedious like refactoring can be a super powerful thing to have Gemini do for you. So don't be afraid to ask the AI to refactor your code. In fact, I plan on possibly refactoring my code, or actually consolidating it once I'm done with the game. But while I'm using vibe coding techniques to make this game, I want to keep the code more on the short side, like the individual files more on the short side right now. So I would prefer to have more files that do very specific things and are short than a bunch of fewer files that are really huge. All right. So let's see. What do I want to do next? I think the last thing that I have energy for in this stream is putting a countertop. Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to put the countertops in every version in the same way. So let's not do that. Let's get the bedrooms going in the big hotel. I'm trying to decide. I think I'm going to do 2 twin beds and full beds. No single beds. All right. Yeah, let's do that. I think that's more fun. And I'm going to pretty much hijack the code from the medium in and just ask it to do the same basic concept, but add full bed as an option and get rid of single twin as an option. Okay, this looks good. Now I want to populate the large inn with bedrooms. I believe we can mimic the same logic as we have for the medium in bedroom placement, but I want to have a full bed as an option for bed placement. So, to be clear, sometimes I like to do this. We can place. Should I keep a single twin? Nah. We can place 2 twin and full size beds. Yeah, but not single twin beds. Okay, I'm not going to try and be too wordy here. Let's see if it can just take what I have from the medium in and just repurpose all the wall placement, the door placement, and and just have, now I'm using a full bed instead of a single twin. And if this works, then I will take the time to place the counter. I'm already kind of thinking about how I'm going to word the counter. I think I always want the counter to be opposite of the door. I want it to always be along the east or west wall, but as far away from the door as possible. Okay, of course, is the logical next step to make the large end feel distinct from the medium ones. I will implement this by creating... Stop it. Come on, let me read. Okay, creating a new generation method for large ends that uses the same iterative placement logic but offers a different selection of room types. Let's see, so... To keep the code clean and avoid duplication, I will refactor the bedroom generation logic into more generalized helper methods. This will make the code easier to read and maintain. Oh, okay. Alright, I don't know if I wanted to, like, alter existing code, but we'll see how you do here. Okay, so... Okay, well, I mean, if it's in generator, then yes. So, you giving me the whole file? It's looking like it. Alright. Yeah, you didn't do too much there. I should definitely read this code now and see how it's approaching this, but at this point it's more out of curiosity than necessity. Okay, let's go to large and let's go to N. Yeah, that's looking pretty... Oh, that's great. Look at that. That's wonderful. Yeah. Offering variety. Okay. I am happy. All right, let's throw in the countertops, and then I think I'm done with this task. I think I'll need a little time to think about how I'm going to do the shop and the tavern, but usually shops are pretty simple. Like, just have a countertop at the top of the building, the north end of the building, and then you can, like, decorate the shop with things. Or maybe I could have multiple countertops. Maybe there could be a weapon side and an armor side, or something like that. I think I want to have, like, a weapon shop, an armor shop, and, like, an items shop as separate buildings. And I don't think I'm going to have a guarantee that every one of those shops will be in every town. But I was thinking it might be interesting that if, let's say, there's only a weapon shop and not an item shop and an armor shop, well, then that must mean that that town specializes in that kind of thing, right? I mean, that could be one way to interpret it. So it'll be a really good weapon shop. And all the weapons, all the armor, and all the items will be procedurally generated. So swords will have just, like, various stats about them, and I'll try my best to give them names that kind of indicate something about them. But more or less, they're just going to be priced based on their capabilities, and their capabilities will be based off of a pool of points, and those points will be kind of randomly added to different characteristics about the sword, maybe about the weight and the sharpness and the length and things like that. So you'll get a whole different, like, pool of items and weapons to shop from every single time you play this game. Alright, let's do the countertops. So if I'm looking at this, I want to have a countertop. So for I'm going to attempt to kind of shotgun this and do the small, medium, and large all in one go. So for the small, I want a simple countertop. Okay. We are going to add a countertop for the N. Let's make the tile for the countertop brown, lighter than the door, but darker than the floor. Okay. The counter top will be a row of horizontal tiles the countertop will always be adjacent to either the east or west wall of the building. There will always be one row of floor tiles south of the countertop. Oh, come on. So what I'm going to try and do is thanks. Yep. Thank you. Think it looks good so far. Were you able to like see kind of what I had here, like just in case you weren't quite watching. So the small N is a bunch of twin beds. The medium N has bedrooms with twin beds, or one or two twin beds, and then the large N can have full-size beds. And I can just keep generating different versions. And the door is going to hop around, so I'm going to have to deal with the door when it comes to the countertop. So let's see here. There will always be one row of floor tiles south of the countertop. Okay, I don't feel like that is the best way for me to say this. So, to be clear, the footprint of the countertop will be one row of floor tiles that are south of an equal length row of countertop tiles. Okay. So I already put it against the east or west wall, and I've already had floor tiles, but the door gets randomly placed. So always choose the side of the building to place the countertop that is furthest from the door in the x-axis. Okay. The only thing that I want to add, but I think I'm going to go for it. For the small n, the counter top will be 3 tiles wide. For the medium and large n, can I fit? How big is the medium? Yeah, I'm gonna go 3 to 5. The countertop can be 3 to 5 tiles wide. Alright, that should do it. Let's see what happens. Alright, so yeah, I'm imagining like there would be a countertop here, and then there'd be a countertop here, and then one on this side, and then one over on the left side, and then one over on the right side, based on the door being off center. Of course, adding a main counter is a key feature for an N. I will implement the logic to place a countertop according to your rules. This will involve adding a new countertop tile type when updating the N generator to place it correctly based on the N size and the position of the main door, ensuring it doesn't overlap with any generated bedrooms. Yeah, it shouldn't based on my rules anyway, but it's good that it's bringing that up. Okay, building cell.cs. Where's that? Okay. Okay, that's a small file. It shouldn't be too big of an update. Yeah, all right, Easy. Yep, good seeing you. Thanks for joining, and I'll definitely try to come to your next stream as well. Appreciate it. All right, what else is there? Okay, in generator. That, of course, makes sense. No, it's only those two files? Wow, that's great. That tells me that I am, like, instructing this thing very well. I love it when there is an obvious file that would be updated based on what I'm asking. Okay, so we're at the end. There's a countertop. So I would put an NPC right here behind it. Oh, wait. Why did it do 2? Uh-oh. Okay, let's see if it happens with the other ones. Let's go to medium. Whoa, okay, that's why. See, that statement of like making sure it doesn't intersect with the rooms. So I did not make it clear that I wanted to be as far down as possible. Okay, since it knows what the countertop tile is, I can see there's a slightly different hue. That means that I can be a little bit more referencing the countertop as an object now. Okay, I see some confusion. Let's always place the countertop tiles one row above the south wall of the building boundary. Let's just be clear. Okay. That should hopefully just be a restriction of this variability of the countertop's height above the bottom. I bet you I could find it myself. So placement X versus placement Y. Valid Y starts. Yeah, I don't really care about valid Y starts. I just want you to be right above. Alright. Looks like it's done. Remember, if it's too complex and didn't follow the rules correctly, fixing the countertop's vertical position makes the logic much cleaner and more predictable. Yeah. Okay. Yep, and place counter. Placement equals 1. Right. I'll paste it first and then I can take a look at it. What happened? Oh, okay. Alright. So where's the Y placement? Countertop equals grid height minus 3. Yeah, see? Boom, easy. Like... Boom, 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 boom. Always at the right height. Let's go to medium, countertop. Nothing's being blocked. Sometimes it's longer, sometimes, yes, I like it. Okay, and then here, and this end has room for other amenities. Okay, alright, I am happy with that. I made my inn, and that will leave me time now to think about how I want to do the shop and the tavern. I think the shop's pretty straightforward, but the tavern, I think I'll have a countertop on like the east or west wall, with only one exit on one end, and then placing tables and chairs. I haven't decided if the tables and the chairs will be separate from each other. Could be neat to have the chairs to be able to be moved around. But with this tile-based method of producing the pixel art and things, I'm a little apprehensive. But I think if I do layers where a table is literally just a square or a circle with like texture in the art, then the chairs would just be the layer underneath. So then the table would be put on top, and it would just like they'll just look like the chairs are just scooted under the table, or they could be sitting out. So I think a countertop, bar stools. I could have a bunch of like procedurally generated little bottles as pixel art and things like that, just being placed on the bar. I mean, as much of a challenge as it's going to be creating all the assets, there's a small part of me that's actually excited for that part of it. Should be neat, especially something like a bottle, since it's a symmetric shape that could have just the body and the neck, and then there could be different heights and colors and levels of fill, and I could use color theory to kind of like give the impression of it being full or empty and things like that. So like the sky's the limit. I think that I could probably procedurally generate, I think, at least 90% of the asset art for this game. And once I have a minimum viable product version of this game that is fun to play, interesting, then I can just keep growing the game from there, adding new features over time. So I hope you learned something from this stream. I hope that there's some entertainment value to it as well, that you can see my vision. And I'm going to sign off now, and I'll see you in the next one.